just be real. How to Get Away with Murder is the best show on TV. I mean, come on. It's so awesome. Every episode has me on the edge of my seat, and we just never know what's going to happen next. And I'm so happy that it's back for the second half of season 2. So as usual, we get a lot of flash forwards, not really flash forwards, but a lot of flashbacks in this episode, some of them going way, way back. It really appeared like the night that Annalise was shot that Wes might have actually shot her again, but Laurel was like the real rock star of everything lately because she took the blame for the shooting, plus she pretty much stopped him from killing her. At least that's kind of what it looked like to me. Well, I don't think anyone ever believed that Annalise was going to die. I mean, come on, Viola Davis is like the rock that holds together this entire show, but she's definitely having some issues right now. Now, I don't know if she's actually going insane because we've seen her have some pretty insane moments in the first half of season 2, but she's on a lot of meds. She's on Vicodin and she's having some hallucinations. Now, I think there's a bigger meaning to this baby hallucination that she's having. So she sees something happen that doesn't happen. This woman coming to her and giving up her baby, a baby boy. And I at first thought maybe this is a flashback, but actually I don't think it is. Now what I think, this is my entire theory on the Christoph story. I think that Wes is actually Annalise's real child, because when you see her near the end of the episode talking to this woman in the park, and it looks like her kid is going to be Christoph, but maybe she's remembering it incorrectly. You see that Annalise is very pregnant. Now, I know they've said in the show before that she lost the baby or something along those lines, but I was always thinking she had a miscarriage, but now I think she had the baby and gave it away rather than it dying. So that is my theory, and I think that Sam, the ex-husband or the deceased husband of Annalise, is Wes's father, which I think the big huge twist in all of this is going to be that Wes murdered his own father without knowing it. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about that theory, and thumbs up if you think that is possible. So, you know, Wes is not doing well at all. I mean, he's pretty much suicidal because of all the stuff that's going on, and he knows that Annalise knows more about his backstory and his life than she ever let on, and obviously she's the reason that he got into this law school, because he was waitlisted and she got him in because she's been watching over him his entire life. But we don't have all of the pieces of this story. For one, I don't know if she murdered his mother, had his mother murdered, or if this woman actually committed suicide, but there's definitely more to that story, and even her know those missing pieces. So I felt one of the more epic scenes of this episode was when we realized, because at first we didn't know if that baby thing was really happening, but it's such strong imagery and it carries on through the entire episode. So I think it's more than just someone who is hallucinating on medication. But anyway, at first, you know, when she handed the baby over to Bonnie, and then Bonnie ends up dropping an empty blanket. So I just felt like that was so, I don't know, I just don't think they could have done it in a better way to let us know that Annalise was not in her right mind. On another note, I found it hysterical when Annalise's ice cream was drugged by Bonnie, and Viola is such an excellent actress, and I just loved as you could see her slipping farther and farther, and the drugs taking more of an effect on her as she was mumbling her words and like falling asleep into her ice cream. So one big component of this episode is Asher. Now, we had seen him go to the police in some flash forwards from the first half of season 2, and we might have assumed that he was going to the police to tell them about the fact that he murdered someone, or that everyone is corrupt who is associated with Annalise, or who knows what. But he was actually going to tell them that he didn't believe his father committed suicide, but he thinks that he was murdered and it was set up to look like a suicide. Now, everyone else in this show thinks he's completely insane and just like so distraught over his father's death that he's making things up, but I believe him. I do think that his father was murdered. I'm just not sure who. However, it could make sense to me that Annalise had something to do with it and Frank might have been the one who done it, but we don't have all the pieces of that story either. So they need to go to court in this episode because Annalise is supposed to testify about what happened the night she was shot and Sinclair was murdered, but she's in no state to testify at all. The other issue here is that they're framing Catherine for a crime that she definitely didn't commit. Now, I really don't think she killed her parents either, and I thought it was interesting that Philip wasn't in this episode. I was having my first live chat for How to Get Away with Murder. By the way, live chats are every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that information is down below. But in the live chat, some of you thought that perhaps Caleb is actually the person who murdered the parents, murdered the aunt, and set up his sister for it. So what do you guys think about that? Who do you really think murdered the parents? Because I just feel like Philip being the one who did this is just way too easy. So what really bothered me as far as Annalise and her character, because we know she just doesn't have the best character, and that's putting it mildly, when Laurel was coming to see her in the hospital recently after she had been shot, she was asking about Rebecca, and Annalise is lying again, and lying and saying that, you know, she was just making that up, that Rebecca was murdered and everything. And I just think it's terrible that she keeps lying, and I think toward the end of this show, like when this show is going to end, that all of her lies and all of the bad things she does is definitely going to catch up with her, because it's really bad karma. So they're trying to use like Annalise's 911 phone calls and things as testimony, but the judge is like, no, that's not going to work. So Laurel secretly goes and calls her, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm coming. Well, so she shows up, and she's obviously in no state to do any type of testimony. She's not really making sense. She claims she's not on the drugs, but she probably is. Plus, I think she's going a little bit crazy. So then she does something insane. When she's up there on the stand, she says that Catherine didn't do it. So I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, she's saying that Catherine didn't shoot her and didn't kill Sinclair. Like, why is she doing this? But then she was like, no, Catherine told me she didn't kill her parents. Now, we all probably thought she was going insane, but she later tells Caleb that she was only doing that to help his sister out. She wants his sister to go ahead and admit that she killed Sinclair and shot Annalise so that it'll be easier for her and she'll get off for doing this. The only problem is after she admits that in court and shocks everyone, they're going to try to put her in jail for 5 years. So I don't know how Annalise is going to work around that, but it's a big, huge mess, and it'll be interesting to see, because it seems like Annalise is always able to figure things out, and she always wins in the end, at least for now. Let's see, what else do we need to discuss in this episode? So I guess we need to go to the end of the episode where I think this really happened, but Wes shows up at Annalise's home, and he's in her bedroom, and he said he's already like searched her whole room for everything because he's trying to find out what she knows about his past, and he said he couldn't find anything, and he's basically begging her for some information, and Annalise doesn't want to tell him. So then he leaves, and then she runs after him. She's like getting ready to tell him stuff, but he's already gone. So anyway, like I said, I think it won't come out for maybe a couple more episodes, the real truth behind Kristoff, and I'm not really sure what happened with the name change, like why he ended up being Wes. But again, I do believe that she actually gave birth to Wes and then maybe regretted giving him away. I'm not really sure. I would love to hear your guys' theories about that. But we end with her dealing with this baby that doesn't exist anymore. So again, I really feel like she, had this baby, and that baby was Wes. That's just so much imagery throughout the entire episode. It definitely is a clue, and it definitely has to mean something. So apparently in next week's episode, someone's going to die, which, yay. And whenever they say something like that's going to happen and it's big, they definitely deliver. They don't let us down, and they don't lie. So that makes me happy. But overall, I thought it was such a great episode. I would love for you to be at my live show. Again, all that information's down below, and that's every week. It was a lot of fun this week, so I can't wait to see more of you there. And if you love How to Get Away with Murder, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos or live chats, because that would make me so happy. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Kellie TV. See you next time.